Let's go to Indianapolis. Josh Pate is there, boots on the ground, as good as they find, as good as you'll find in covering college football. From Will Wade, the LSU head basketball coach, we go to Josh Pate of 247 Sports, who is in Indy getting ready for Georgia, Alabama. Alabama is first off, good morning. Happy New Year, buddy. It's been a minute.
Good morning, sir. How are we?
Doing good. Get ready for tonight. Not as much a buzz as in SEC country as you might feel with Georgia and Alabama tilting tonight for the national championship. What does it feel like in Indy?
I would say it probably feels roughly as you described it in the South, so I think that's proportioned. I personally blame the cold weather up here, but I also think, if we're being real with ourselves, that whole rematch factor has something to do with it. Plus, it's not like we're watching Tennessee versus Texas A&M in a rematch. We're watching folks who have been there. But I got into this heated discussion last night with a friend, so, we're still cool this morning, I guess. But I got into this heated discussion last night, and it was because I got a buddy who is a sports fan, but he treats sports like it's a Netflix series or like it's one of those old R.L. Stine books where you get to choose the ending. And I eventually got fed up with him talking about every outcome in the college football season and how this outcome wasn't good for the game. The game really needs this. The game's fine, first off. And secondly, this is not Hollywood. This is competition. It's sports. So sometimes we get results that may not pop the biggest TV rating in the world, and it may not bring people in from all four corners of the country. The only alternative is to quite literally do what they do in pro wrestling, which I got no problem with, but that's choreographed. This is competition. It's real life. So sometimes it just works out this way.
Georgia's the favorite. What do they have to do to win?
Well, they've got to do some things they didn't obviously have the ability to do last time. I think a lot of folks are talking about Stetson Bennett, and it's fine because he's their quarterback, but that is not where I start. In fact, someone asked me on my show last night if you could know one stat about this game to give you the best gauge on how it was going to turn out, what would that stat be? And I just want to know what Georgia's yards per carry average is. Because last game, we were doing post-game hits immediately afterwards, and I just assumed everyone was going to talk about Stetson Bennett throwing some picks, and they were right. He did. But, Jordy, there is no world where Stetson Bennett's having to throw the ball more than 40 times where I trust Georgia to win. And by the way, he's had to do that the last couple of times they played Bama. And that really coincides with them not being able to run the ball better. 3.6 yards per carry is what they had against Bama in Atlanta. There is no world, again, where they are not running the ball more effectively than that, where I trust Stetson Bennett to shoulder the load. This is the antithesis of what Alabama has. Alabama has a kid in Bryce Young where you can tell me they'll be able to run the ball. Maybe they won't. Who cares? Bryce Young can get the job done either way. Well, that's not what Georgia has. So that's the first thing they have to do. Second thing they have to do is obviously they have to pressure Bryce Young. They don't have to sack him. The sack total is overrated. They have to affect him. When teams, LSU did this actually, when LSU affected Bryce Young this year, when Auburn affected Bryce Young, it's not that he was on his back every other play, but you saw him get a little bit more inconsistent, understandably so, as the game went on, and they never really found a groove with the pass game. If Georgia can do that, that means the game is played in the 20s instead of getting up in the 30s, and at that point they give themselves the best chance to win.
Josh, I know you keep up with this, and I know you got a little Ramen Noodle Express. I know you're a gambling man yourself. Why? The only thing that makes me hesitant about the Alabama-Georgia rematch is the spread. Why would you think that Alabama goes into that game favored?
Underdog.
Sorry, as an underdog. Excuse me. I'm on
the other side of that. I was that same buddy who I'm on the outs with right now. We were talking about this. We covered. Apparently, I show prepped for you with my buddy last night. So
it was me.
So you asked me the question last night while we were on the phone. You said, "How could Georgia be favored, but then they lose, and Alabama not be favored this time?" Well, actually, the way the odds-making world works, if you think about it, this is a massive jolt from a 6.5-point number to a 2.5-point number with the same matchup on a neutral field only a month apart. I know what the typical mindset would be looking at this, but I also know how odds making works. Odds making works in numbers, works in percentages, works in simulations over 1,000 games. It is a huge move. It's a huge move to just have Georgia as this small a favorite after they were nearly a touchdown favorite. So it would take several times for Bama repeating what they did last game for them to get up to that touchdown favorite kind of level.
Are you taking Bama?
I did take Alabama.
Did you get him at +3 or +2.5?
I got him at plus, but let me say this. So I have not actually bet the side. If I had to bet a side, I would bet Bama. I think there is some massive opportunity to be had in the prop bet market on this game. Let me give you an example. So John Mechie is out of this game for Alabama. You remember back in 2015, the first time Bama and Clemson played, they go out to Arizona and Bama's down a receiver. And all of a sudden, there's this 5-star tight end that they hadn't really used in the passing game all year named O.J. Howard that just explodes, had over 200 yards receiving that day. There is going to be much more Georgia pressure brought tonight. There's going to be a lot more attention on Jamison Williams. There is going to be a glaring mismatch somewhere. I'm telling you, they know it. Georgia knows it. They're just counting on pressure getting home. But if it doesn't, to me, Jaleel Billingsley is the guy. Like, he's the guy to look for, popping a bigger number than you would expect. His over-under receiving yards total right now, 16.5. It's been there all week. And I've tried to explain to people how opportunistic that number is for you. So I've taken that. I've also taken, I think, James Cook for Georgia, over 20.5 receiving yards. Really think he'll be active out of the backfield tonight. So those two, I mean, I have bet bigger amounts on those two than I have the actual side in total.
On the other side, Brock Bowers, what type of effect do you see him having on the game?
I think he has a big effect because he's a guy, as you saw later in the last game they played, where Alabama focused added attention on him. I call it 1.5 or 2 attention on him, and he still was able to get the job done. But I'll tell you the tight end, ironically, that I'm focused on for Georgia, it's not even Bowers. Bowers is a constant. He's a given.
Washington?
I think one of Georgia's better opportunities, especially when they get in plus territory in this game tonight, is to do a little bit of what they did last game. They threw a ball up to George Pickens early, and he snagged it and brought it down. But they also threw one up in the end zone to Darnell Washington, a tight end for Georgia, who's an ogre. He's like 8'3", he's huge, and he just high pointed a ball over Henry To'oTo'o's head. Look, that's not a 50-50 ball. When you throw it to guys like that, that's not 50-50. That's a 70-30, 80-20 deal. And for a team that turned the ball over in plus territory as often as Georgia did, I'm not sure I wouldn't try that half a dozen times tonight.
Bill O'Brien, I thought, was a difference maker in the SEC championship game between these two teams. It seems like this is going to be the last game he calls for Alabama. His name is popping up on OC lists all over the NFL, most notably in Carolina with Matt Rule. What impact do you expect him to have tonight, and do you expect it to be the last game that he is the OC for the Tide?
I would lean that way, yeah. But I also
rehab
think
in Malibu.
Well, yeah, and listen, at least his last game as OC, he's actually going to call the title game. So he's handled the exit better than Lane Kiffin did once upon a time, getting fired 6 days before the title game. But I think the best tool you have with Bill O'Brien is in preparation. I think those NFL guys, I don't care how you view his tenure as an NFL coach, when you've got guys who have been at that level, the preparation that is necessary to even compete at that level, when you bring that back to the college game, I've always thought that's such a benefit. I always think also at the quarterback position, in the NFL, you play your division opponents twice every year. In college, it's not often that you do it. So when you get a rematch situation, I think it's really, really helpful to have NFL-minded people around you offensively because they deal with that constantly. They're constantly getting the quarterback ready to face the defense for the second time, sometimes in a span of a month. And that's exactly what Alabama's doing tonight. So those two areas, preparation and then specifically at the quarterback position, getting a guy like Bryce Young prepared for different looks, that is where Bill O'Brien pays dividends.
Josh, you watch this much closer than I do. How is Slade Bolden playing for Alabama football? I don't know. It might be a personal vendetta from a Louisiana guy going to Alabama, but I have no idea why he's on the field. He had a breakout game in the SEC championship, if you want to call it that. But how does he keep finding himself in position to return punts, start at wide receiver, throw passes, run wildcat quarterback? He is all over the field, and it feels like Alabama has better players than him, but he keeps being out there. Do you understand Slade Bolden at all?
Yeah, they trust him.
Okay.
That's it. You said they've got better players. Well, I would partially agree with you in that they've got far more talented players. They just brought in the number one receiver class in the country last year, and yet, as you just alluded to, we've seen Slade Bolden more than Ajay Hall. We've seen him more until recently than Ja'Cory Brooks. We've seen him more than JoJo Earl, and the reason is not because he is superior talent-wise. He just does enough things good enough. He at his core, what he is a guy you can trust to be where you tell him to be.
So
and you may think, oh, that's a given. This is Alabama. Everyone does that. Well, normally that's true. But over the past 4 years, they've lost Judy and Waddle and Devontae Smith and Henry Ruggs. It's not a given, even when you recruit like them, that the cupboard is just stocked with guys you can trust. The talent's there. Guys you can trust, I don't know. And that's why he's been there as sort of a possession guy. Finally paid off for him a little bit in the SEC championship game. What's funny, though, is this is the same thing Bama fans say. It's like, oh, can we not find anything better than Slade Bolden? And they're playing for a national title.
That's so good. I know it is a busy day for you. What is you're about to start here in about 5 minutes? How's the schedule work up to kickoff? How can we follow you?
Here's what's convenient. So we're doing hits all day on CBS Sports HQ. Honestly, I think we have too many for me to even list right now. But the way they have Indianapolis laid out for no one who's ever been here is we're in the JW Marriott. So that's the big downtown hotel with the plastering all over the side for the playoff propaganda, even though it looks pretty. So they have skywalks that connect everything, kind of like Minneapolis. So I actually don't have to get in a car or get out on the street to get over to the stadium. You can just go straight from your hotel room to it back and forth. So we're going to be over there all day working with Dodd and Cannell and all the guys with CBS Sports HQ. And then once the game starts, my job's over. And that's the way you want to structure your workday, Jordy.
Yes, good luck with that, man. And the game is going to be fantastic tonight. It is not. It is very rare that you can find one of us who is a layman in the media stand next to a former pro athlete and make them look small. And you have done that, Josh. You and Danny Cannell's stand up yesterday, bro. You look like the pro athlete, and Cannell looks like kind of the prankster in the mock turtleneck and the
turtleneck
and the sport coat, bro. I don't know what plan you've been on since Christmas, dude, but you look yoked right now.
TV12.
They gave us scarves as the media gift. And look, this dude rocks a scarf while he's playing with his daughters in his backyard, and he didn't wear the scarf yesterday. That, to me, is the smallest feature of anything that we've done here so far. That Cannell would not wear the Indianapolis college football playoff scarf they gave us. That, to me, was the disappointment of this weekend.
Josh, your arms are massive.
Massive, bro. Massive. I mean, he looks like a third baseman.
We're getting it. Look at him.
Look at the guns on this guy, bro.
I mean, this is not suited for work, Josh.
He's been using the grip.
Couple of hand squeezers. Have a great day, bro.
This is porn.
This is all built around being ready for spring softball season. That's all it's about.
First pick, bro. You look like the first pick.
Cannell looks like a villain.
Enjoy the day. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, man.